Hello, my friends, and happy Sunday to you. So glad you've tuned in today. This is our pre-service, and I'm Kyle Searcy. In a little while, our service is going to begin, our main service. This is part of the service, our pre-service, where we take time to talk about issues we think are going to be of a great impact and a great blessing to you. And I have a special guest today I am going to introduce to you. Now, because of the information we're going to go over, I want you to begin to share the stream now. Let somebody know we're here now. Now, we're back in service. We're having services live at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock on Sunday, but many of you are still watching online. So whether you're planning on coming, you can still kind of keep your phone on and listen to the things we're going to talk about on your way to church. Some of you may be coming at 11 o'clock or another service time. You could listen, but I'm telling you, this is going to be some valuable information. So go ahead and begin to share it now. Help me welcome Dr. Oviagali. Doctor, thank you so very much for taking time out to be with us today.
Thank you so much, Bishop Carl, for inviting me today.
You're so welcome.
It is my pleasure to be here.
Now, I'm amazed at your knowledge. I always have been your intelligence, your ability to grasp concepts. You're a medical doctor, a bona fide medical doctor, and also a doctor, I guess a doctor of psychiatry. Is that the proper term?
I'm a board-certified psychiatrist.
Board-certified psychiatrist. So you understand the spirit, the mind, the soul, the body. So, hey, we got a lot to talk about because there's a lot going on that affects spirit, it affects soul, it affects body, it affects so many different areas of life. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. So listen, I want to ask you a couple of questions. We've been dealing with COVID-19 since February, March last year. I kind of believe it was out before then. I was in Israel in January, and there were a number of people from different countries in that hotel. But I remember getting sick, and I remember feeling like this is strange. This doesn't feel like the kind of sickness I usually get. I remember my chest being, a lot of the things they describe right now. I felt like I might have been dealing with that. And that was back in January. And I'm talking to people now. There's a friend of mine that has a business who has one of his employees in January who got deathly sick. And they said he had the worst case of pneumonia they've ever seen, they've ever seen. And he died. But again, the symptoms were like COVID. So I believe it was around a little bit before we defined it in February. But man, we're dealing with this thing that we're beginning to understand more and more and more. So can you help define this disease for us and tell us, what are we dealing with? What is it? What's the story behind it?
Thank you so much for your question. Because this is a novel virus, this is a new virus, so it has never showed up before.
Right.
So we are caught unawares, and just like you alluded to, this virus seems to have been first identified sometime in November 2019.
Wow, back to November.
In China. But there was, as you know, international politics and all that, but we're not officially informed here in the United States through the proper channels until January of 2020, And since then, initially we had a few cases, but as you all know, things have just gotten a little bit out of control. So just to to shine some really good light on this topic, I think it would be wise for us to just, in a very brief fashion, define the disease itself, so that we'll get a good sense of what we're talking about, because people get confused. Some say, oh, coronavirus. Some say COVID-19. Some say SARS-CoV-2. It's all confusing. So I'm going to start first by defining the virus and defining the disease, because they're two different things. The virus causes the disease. So the virus,
say that again. The virus causes the disease.
So COVID-19.
So it's not the same thing.
They're not the same thing. COVID-19 stands for coronavirus disease. Coronavirus disease discovered in 2019. That's why they say COVID-19. So that's a disease.
Okay.
But COVID-19 is caused by a virus called SARS-CoV. That is C-O-V, not COVID. COVID. SARS stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome.
Is that so?
Corona 2.
Okay.
So that's SARS-CoV-2 causes COVID-19.
I see.
Okay?
Wow.
So that's why I say it's good to, if you have a SARS-CoV-2, that means there must be a SARS-CoV-1. SARS-CoV-1 was first identified in 2003 in Asia. But it was not, but they're similar viruses, okay? And this was first discovered in Asia, but it wasn't as bad as what we have now. So SARS, again, I say, it stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. This
So COVID-1 also affected respiratory
Yes,
issues?
it's also a respiratory virus. Okay, so that's the first thing to understand the differences between this virus and the disease. That's number one. Number two, this virus is an RNA virus, which means it's a single-strand RNA virus.
So as opposed to a DNA virus?
That's a DNA virus, because there are 6 types of viruses. So you have DNA viruses, double-strand, DNA virus, single-strand, RNA virus, double-strand, RNA virus, single-strand. Then you have what we call positive RNA virus and negative RNA virus. These are the 6 viruses on Earth.
Hey, we're learning today, folks.
So,
welcome to our pre-service, by the way. We're going over what COVID-19 is all about.
Yeah.
Go ahead, doctor.
Thank you so much. So because at times these things get all mixed up, it gets confusing. So we now know so we started first with what the disease is. I've explained to you what virus is responsible for the disease. When the causing of the disease was first discovered in 2003, so this is like the 2.0. Okay? So, and it's an RNA virus. It's a single-strand, just like HIV. HIV is also an RNA virus, but they're not in the same group, but it's an RNA virus. So it's an RNA virus, single-strand, with what we call high antigenic drift. So it has a very high power of mutation.
Okay.
So the thing can change, just like a flu. You know, that's why we get flu shot every year. Okay? So these are some of the bases of the virus.
So an RNA virus is more mutatable than DNA viruses typically?
Yes, because the single strand is easier because they have a simple structure.
Can multiply.
Yeah, they multiply.
So AIDS is a single strand RNA.
Yes, a single
Does
strand
AIDS mutate?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they have, but the mutation may be at the edges. It's just like saying now, like you may have a. I'm trying to look for a very good example. You can have core mutations and peripheral mutations.
Okay.
So somebody says, okay, let's say I'm your twin now, but the only difference between us is, okay, I lost my hair, you have hair. So, but our core is the same.
Okay.
So that's why I said that. So when you say they have a high antigenic drift, there's this mutation at the edges, but the core is the same.
Wow.
You know, but over years, if this virus becomes endemic here and for years and years, you may have what we call not an antigenic drift, you now have what we call an antigenic shift, where the virus is shaped, the cell just evolves into something different that is terrible.
So has COVID-19 been mutating since it's been?
Yes, at the periphery.
Peripheral mutation.
So that's why that was why it was easy for the U.S. government to determine whether it was a manufactured virus and code, because they can look at the strand and look at the code and see because you can tell when you have an artificial code infused into a strand, as opposed to a natural occurring RNA virus.
So what was their determination? Was it
that it was a naturally occurring virus?
It's naturally occurring.
Yes, that was the determination of the experts.
Okay.
Okay. So we now know what these viruses are, the basics. Then the other thing we have to understand is that when you are infected with a virus, there are 3 things that could happen. For a virus to get into you, you need a portal.
a portal?
So
opening.
if I'm going to get into this building, I need a key.
Right.
Okay? Then when the virus latches onto the portal, so if this is the cell, and the virus now says, okay, where can I latch? So I have a portal here. It latches onto it. Okay? Then after that, it has to get into the cell and cause infection.
Okay.
Then after infecting a lot of cells, your body has to react to try destroy the virus.
Okay.
Your body, your immune system either succeeds or it doesn't succeed. If it fails to kill the virus, you now have total destruction and what we call end organ effect. So you now affect your kidneys, your liver, and all the other end organs. So when you're looking at the infection, you're saying, okay, because understand.
So I'm going to back up it again, just make sure I understand. So when your body, you said when your body doesn't get to destroy it, it starts destroying your organs?
No. So what happens is that when the virus eventually succeeds, that overwhelms your immune system.
Okay, so your immune system is not strong enough to fight it.
It has fought, but it didn't win the war.
Okay, then what happens is?
What happens is that then the virus just ravages different systems.
Okay.
Like this coronavirus, this SARS-CoV-2, so I'll be using the technical name for it now. So SARS-CoV-2 is a virus that can affect any cell in the body.
Any cell in the body.
As long as the cell has a portal. And the portal is an enzyme, is a protein called ACE2.
H2.
No, ACE. That's an acronym. It stands for
ACE2.
Yes, ACE. It stands for angiotensin converting enzyme. It's a protein that sits on most cells. So you need ACE2. If you have no ACE2 on your cell, the virus can't latch onto it.
Really?
But we all have ACE2.
So how come we don't just get rid of the ACE2, Doc? Can't we just get that?
But ACE2, that portal is also used for other things.
I know.
Other processes in your body. So, so that is the main portal of entry. And there are all kinds of speculation now that why, although we're going to probably talk about that later, why are people of the minority population more prone to it? We'll talk about, because these are some of the reasons why.
Wow.
Yeah, because they have even some, we just say, people with hypertension, how come some of them are more prone to having COVID?
So it's not just pre-existing conditions, it's deeper than that. It has to do with
certain types of pre-existing conditions.
Okay,
So,
I want to get to that. Remind me to come back to that.
that. So, so you need the virus, you need a portal, and the receptor there is the ACE2, which is there's an acronym called the angiotensin converting enzyme. It's a protein. So the thing is that the virus gets into this, latches onto the cell, eventually gets into that. So because if you look at a picture of the coronavirus, it's an RNA virus, but it has a protein envelope. That's the spikes you see. It's an envelope. So you have the virus, and it's enveloped in those protein that the has, and it's a protein envelope. So it's those spikes that gets attached to the ACE2 receptors on the cells, eventually goes into the cell and tries to take over your mechanism, your DNA mechanism, to replicate itself.
Wow.
So
this is intense.
So that's step one. So the step one is for you need a receptor that the virus has to latch onto, gets into the cell, reproduces in the cell. After reproducing in the cell, your body now recognizes it as a hostile infective process going on. So your body now tries to mount an immune response. Okay? And there are two types of immune response. You have cellular immune response, or you have antibody immune response. Again, I'm trying to simplify this. It's a little bit more complicated than this. So what happens is your body begins to fight and fight. But what happens in COVID is that for most people that die, when their body mounts an immune response, the immune response is so significant that it destroys the virus and other organs in your body, like your lungs. That's why people...
The immune response
from your body is so aggressive that it begins to actually destroy some of the normal parts of your body, because it's not attacking...
Is that for everybody or some
Not
people?
for everybody.
Okay, for
some
certain people,
yes.
The actual immune response of your body latches on to... why? Do they mistake the receptors?
See, what happens is that at times, there are times that when you're immune, because your immunity, your immune cells recognize the offending agent and try to attack it. But at times, the offending agent may have similar molecular character with some of the cells of your body. So it begins to...
So it's almost like an autoimmune.
It's almost like an autoimmune, but it's so aggressive. So that's why when that happens in the lungs, you have significant inflammation. Then the lungs become filled with a lot of fluid, inflammatory fluid. Then you can breathe, and people die. If it affects your blood vessels, because your immune system can attack the blood vessels too, plus the virus, what happens, they develop clots. And those clots can go to the brain. That's why you see people with COVID will have stroke. Some of them will have kidney failure, because if you attack the vessels that supply your kidney with clots, you block blood supply to the kidney, then your kidney fails. If you block blood supply through clots...
So what determines whether it touches the kidney, the heart? What determines what gets clogged?
That's some of the things that we still trying to figure out. Yeah, because some people, like we all know, some people have the disease and they just stay at home and they just have mild fever and nothing big happens. But some will go up with this very significant inflammation. Then the last stage of the disease is after that inflammation is probably over, then you now have the destruction, just like after a hurricane. So the kidney may be down. Even pancreas can go down. And you see people with new onset diabetes. People will have stroke. So you have the end stage of the disease, which is the havoc caused by the disease, the strokes, the kidney failure, pancreatic damage. It can, even skin, you can even have what they call COVID's toe. It can affect your skin, your toe. It can affect any part of your body. The reason why you see the respiratory one as the main source is because that's more dramatic. That's what actually kills folks most of the time.
See, I'm confused because they named it SARS, respiratory syndrome, as if it only attacks respiratory.
But it's not. But the destroyed matter is not. It's just that because eventually when most people die, they die from the respiratory failure.
I see.
Yeah, because if somebody goes into kidney failure, they can hook them up into it.
So after the hurricane aftermath.
Yeah, because if somebody... has, for instance, if somebody has if a patient has a clot that blocks blood supply to the kidney and they go into kidney failure, we can hook them up to a dialysis machine and at least take care of it until the kidney gets better. If you have a stroke with a clot to your brain, they can give you clot busters. But once you get into that lungs, because the lungs just gets filled with fluid, they just can't breathe, you know. So that's one of the biggest problems. So because the reason why I know this is like being in the weeds, but the reason.
One second. And by the way, you are at the right place at the right time. I'm Kyle Searcy, and we have Dr. Oviagali here. We are talking about, Dr. Oviagali is a medical doctor, plus he's a board-certified psychiatrist. So we're talking about COVID-19, and we're going to talk about mental and emotional health in a minute. So you're in the right place. In just a little while, we're going to go into service. This is our pre-service, but listen, this is dynamic information. You want to share this. You want to go back and listen to it over and over and over again. We're learning some stuff here, man. I just haven't learned on the news. I haven't heard anybody say this, but it's very fascinating information. So, Doctor, thank you so much. So please continue.
So what happens, so the reason why it is interesting to understand these various stages of the disease, that is the receptor stage, the inflammatory stage, which is the infectivity stage, then the inflammatory stage and the end organ failure stage, is that if you look at the treatments that are available now, they target different stages. So let's look at what happened to the President of the United States. He had 3 medicines. He was given a drug called remdesivir, which is an antiviral, which was to attack the virus itself. He received a drug called Regeneron, which is a monoclonal antibody. That you're giving them artificial antibody to fight the virus. Then he was also given dexamethasone to fight the inflammation. Those are the 3 drugs he got. So if you look at the theory or the logic behind his treatment, and I'm sure for most other people, you see, so some people will say, oh, some people are getting dexamethasone, some are getting remdesivir, other people are getting monoclonal antibody. What's all this? Who gets what? It's based on this theory I just told you now. So you're looking at what level are you attacking. So typically, the treatment is based on the level at which you are presenting. So if you are presenting at the beginning stage, it does make sense to give you more antiviral because you may not have mounted significant immune response. So if you are in the infectivity phase where you're beginning to, develop some degree of inflammation, then you can use what do you call it? An anti-inflammatory agent like dexamethasone. So the treatments are based on what those 3 things I just told you now.
Wow.
So this is just the basis of the disease. And there's still a lot we don't know about the disease, especially the telltale end effect. That is, we're seeing now, 6 months down, that even some individuals that did not have serious disease still have some deficits. Some people that don't even have any significant disease. They're having lung scarring, because the virus itself can attack your heart and cause scarring in your heart without you even knowing.
Really?
Yes, we're seeing that.
So what
now.
all does the virus do? Your lungs, your heart, it could affect your liver, it could affect your pancreas, it could affect blood clotting.
Yes.
What else?
It can affect your skin, it can affect your blood supply to your limbs. So it's a multi-organ disease. And in children, which we didn't say much about, you see, most people say it doesn't affect children, but it's killed quite a number of children in the United States, or young people. And it didn't kill most of the children through respiratory distress. They have what we call the multi-organ attack. That is almost like an autoimmune disorder. During that inflammation, so they just had all the organs were just being attacked, the kidney being attacked, the pancreas being attacked, so it just shuts down everything in the young child. Almost like similar to a disease we used to call Kawasaki disease.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So those are just some of the basic contours of the disease. So what next? What does this disease now do to us? So we now understand the structure of this disease. We know how it infects us. We've talked about the various stages of the disease. The next thing is, because we've just been spending time now talking about the biological impact of the disease. That is the medical, the physical. That's what we've been talking about. But let's shift the discussion a little bit. What is the psychological impact of this disease?
Okay.
Which is the area where I'm most interested in. When an individual is subjected to a disease, whether it is infective disease, whether it is malignant disease, you react to your disease psychologically, no matter who you are.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It
is just, and you may even experience some stress from the disease itself, no matter what the disease is, whether it's an infective process, a malignant process, stroke, whatever it is. There's some reaction to whatever you're going through. But what happens is that you suffer some stress, but not everybody becomes distressed.
Okay.
You see?
There's a difference there.
There's a difference there. That means because most people suffer stress, but may not become distressed from the stress. Why do we have those differences, and what are the kind of stress response that we have with, say...
Does stress and distress make you more susceptible to being harmed by the disease? In other words, is our immune system stronger when we eliminate stress?
One thing we know, not just for COVID alone, for most diseases, that is your capacity to handle stress, your immune status and all that, prior any condition, obviously helps you to deal with anything that's oncoming. But the thing is just that we all have different genetic vulnerabilities, psychological vulnerabilities, as individuals, and some of these things are not quantified prior to disease, so we don't know, you just see somebody, you don't know what they've gone through and all that stuff, because as you know, having counseled, those thousands of people over the years, that people are different. There are certain people I'm sure will call you and you'll be surprised and say, oh my God, is this what's bothering this person? And somebody else may be saying, oh, that's not a big deal. But you know that people just handle these things differently. Correct. So if you look at the impact of COVID, so the psychological impact of COVID is you can react to COVID by developing mood spectrum problems. Mood spectrum.
Spectrum.
Yes, that
different,
would be
up, down.
Yeah, you could
in
be
the
up,
middle.
you could be down. You could be. So that's why I wanted to use the word spectrum, because it runs the gamut. So you could be depressed, you could be excited, you could be irritable, you may be confused.
So let me be clear. It's not that the virus itself triggers a depressive hormone
not
in your brain.
No.
It's just your reaction.
Action to it.
Okay.
And your
is that based on experience or life? What determines our reactions?
Your reaction to it is based on your interpretation or your concept of the disease.
Oh, okay.
So for instance, now, we're sitting down here now, we're talking. I've not seen you, facially in about 6 months or something. If I was saying, oh my God, I've managed to survive this time. I'm talking to the bishop. Are we far enough? Or I'm having a cold. That means the way I interpret, the way you respond to things depends on how you interpret it in your head. So because you can have what we call cognitive distortions, or what I would call irrational thoughts that are not based on facts, And those things can drive your anxiety because you may either catastrophize or underplay. So something is small, but your head just takes you to a different place, like, oh, my life is over. This thing is going to get me. I'm going to lose my job. Oh, what of my children? Oh, they're going to college. You just keep worrying, and somebody says, hey, what is the basis for this? You say, yeah, I know people are getting the virus, but the truth of the matter is that regardless of what other people are saying, a lot of people recover from this disease. Wow. It has a very high case fatality. There's no question about that. But I'm saying overall, we're talking of a case fatality. I think the last I had, I think it was like 2.75 or 3%. So what that means is that...
That's pretty high, though. The flu is what?
It's less than 1%.
Yeah, flu is less than 1%. So this is 2 point something to
2.75 or 3 or something. So and even the case fatality also varies among race and all that. So if you kind of try to pass that, it becomes complicated. But it's a modern flu. But so let's even say it's 2.75%. Let's just even say that. So that means for every 100 people that have the disease, probably 2.7% of people, which is a high number. But so we're not talking of just a 50% that everybody's going to die or something. So you have to put things in context, So the way you react to this stressor called COVID-19 may be by, developing a mood spectrum issues, up, down, irritable.
Now, is that if you have it or just the fact that it's in the world?
No, just if you have it.
Okay, so if you get it, we're talking about stress if you get it now, not just the threat of having it.
No, not trying to have it. If you not have it.
I want to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to ask you about the threat of having it.
Yeah. So if you have it now, you now react to it because now you're scared. You may have a neighbor or somebody that has died, so you develop it. But the other thing too is that, so that's on the one hand. You may also have an anxiety spectrum response. So you may not be depressed, you may not be irritable.
Anxiety spectrum.
Yes, because the reason why I'm using the word spectrum is that it's not a typical, like, I'm going to kill myself tomorrow depression. You're just there, you're upset, you're not happy, you can't go to church, you can't do this, So that kind of mood, your mood is just low or high. So it's not a clinical depression as we know it or something, but your mood is not right, So and it's usually on a spectrum. It's not just, and it may go from day to day, back and forth. Then you may also have anxiety spectrum, which would be, worrying. Anxiety is essentially excessive worry. A worry that is beyond the size of the stimulus. So if I tell you that I'm worried about losing my job and I may not be able to feed my family, and I just get beaten out of shape out of that and I'm looking okay, so you may say, hey, why are you worried? Even if you lose that job, just like you were preaching this morning, people are still getting jobs in the COVID season. I go, yeah, you're going to get something. Yeah, it may not be immediately, but, I mean, it's not because you're trying to just rationalize it, because that calms your brain down. It's a way of reassuring yourself that, you know what, it's not the end of the world. As you were driving down here today, how many people did you see on the road saying, give me food to feed my children? It's not, So you have the anxiety response. But the other thing that we have to take into cognizance is that the way people react to these stressors also depends on people that had pre-existing psychological problems.
Okay.
So you may have someone that had depression kind of off and on, anxiety kind of off and on, and now this just kind of tear them over. So if you want to look at the response, you kind of put them into two groups.
Already almost up to here, and then this one took them kind of to
and some of them may have already been on medication and therapy and all that. So this one just kind of just exaggerated what was already there before. So you have that class of individuals and the ones that have never had a real problem, but you're just dealing with this for the first time. But the symptomatology is the same, whether you had a pre-existing psychological problem or now you now have anxiety or your anxiety is escalating, it's the same thing. So you have the anxiety response as a response to stress, you have mood spectrum. You may also have use of substances and alcohol because as a means to cope with this stressor. So again, you can kind of pass that into two groups, people that already had problems before, but they were in remission. They were, maintaining. But now they are stressed, so they just go back to what they know gives them relief, which is alcohol and drugs. So you see that. Then suicide goes up. As you can see now, the suicide that has been, the escalation of suicide during this period of time is not with people that have never had mental illness before. It tends to be, in my experience, individuals that already had some kind of mental issues even prior to COVID, and now it's now been exaggerated by the stress of COVID and all the other social implications. So they're just saying, you know what, this is just too much for me. I can't deal with this anymore.
So we're going to be talking this week and next week, and we're going to be talking about how to deal with this and so forth and so on. But for those who are tuning in now, so we only have a couple of minutes in this show, and we're going to pick it up next week. But there is hope, isn't there, Doc?
Oh, there's obviously hope. There's obviously hope, and there's obviously hope because before I get to the hope part of it, the other third impact on COVID is the social impact. Okay. That is, we're talking of what are the social issues that could arise? Unemployment, as we all see what's going on now. So there's unemployment. Now, when unemployment, you have housing issue, you have economic issues, then you have family dislocations. So these are all the issues that, could arise. These are social issues that could arise as a result of the virus. Or even though it's not the virus that's making you not have a house, but if you don't have a job, you have no money, you can't feed your folks, then there may be more domestic violence, how that goes. So these are all so if you look at it, the issues that arise will be the psychological issue. So you have the psychological effect of this response to this event. You have the social, and you have the biological. So what we just tried to do was to first identify what this virus is, how the virus causes havoc, the impact of the virus on us in terms of psychologically, biologically, and socially.
Wow.
And it also even has impact on us spiritually.
Yes.
Just like you said this morning. I was listening to you this morning when you said, just for 6 months, some people have walked away from the church.
Yes.
These are not bad people. Yeah. These are just different responses to something that they think is bigger than them. I don't know whether you remember saying that.
No, I do remember saying that, yeah.
And you're exactly right. So we're not just talking just the...
it's multifaceted.
It's multifaceted. Yeah. So these are all the impacts. So if we are not going to solve this problem, or like you were saying, is there hope? Of course there's hope. But the issue is that we're also going to solve it, approaching it in this same fashion. So we're going to look at the spiritual way to deal with this situation. What are the social interventions that we can bring to bear? How can we psychologically help people weather this storm on better ways of trying to restructure the way they think about things? Then obviously we're going to do the biologics, which is the therapeutics and all that.
I can't wait to get into that. That's going to be next week's show, man. Yeah. Can you believe it that our time for this week has gone so quick? Boy, we have learned so very much, Dr. Oviagali. He has so much knowledge in there. I wonder if he ever sleeps just reading all the time, man. That is phenomenal and amazing. So We got a complex virus. Actually, it's a simple virus, but with complex solutions and everything attached to it, and it causes so many different responses in us. We've unpacked some of that. Listen, the good thing about this, it's on Facebook, it's on YouTube. You can go back and listen to that again and again. Next week, we're going to delve into how to begin to solve these problems, how to begin to be more healthy emotionally, mentally, physically, biologically, how to lean on spiritual resources to help in all of those areas. Dr. Oviagali, thank you so much for being a part of today's service. We honor you for your time. And next week, again, my friends, we're going to continue. Share the stream. Hey, let's get ready for service. Praise and worship is going to begin right now, and it's going to be scrumptious. I'll be right back after that to share a message with you. You don't want to miss it, my friend. Stay tuned. It's going to be lit, as my kid and grandkids say, crunk 100. If you don't know what any of that means, it's going to be good. So we'll see you in just a minute, all right? God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.